I want to learn the language English, so I am sharing my experience reading the English. It was morning and the sun sparkled gold across the ripples of a gentle sea. A mile from shore, a fishing boat churned the water, and the bird for breakfast flock flashed through the air till a crowd of 1,000 seagulls came to dodge and fight for bits of food. It was another busy day beginning, but way off alone, out by himself beyond boat and shore, Jonathan Livingston Seagull was practicing. 100 feet in the sky, he lowered his webbed feet, lifted his beak, and strained to hold a painful, hard-twisting curve through his wings. The curve meant that he would fly slowly, and now he slowed until the wind was a whisper in his face, until the ocean stood still beneath him. He narrowed his eyes in fierce concentration, held his breath, forced one single more inch of curve, then his feathers ruffled, he stalled and fell. Seagulls, as you know, never falter, never stall. To stall in the air is for them disgrace and it is dishonor. But Jonathan Livingston Seagull, unashamed, stretching his wings again in the trembling hard curve, slowing, and stalling once more, was no ordinary bird. Most gulls don't bother to learn more than the simplest facts of flight, how to get from shore to food and back again. Yes, it's for more gulls, it is not flying that matters, but eating. For this gull thought it was not eating that matter, but flight more than anything else. Jonathan Livingston Seagull loved to fly. This kind of thinking, he found, is not the way to make oneself popular with other birds. Even his parents were dismayed, as Jonathan spent whole days alone making hundreds of low-level glitches experimenting. He did not know why, for instance, but he flew at altitudes less than half his wingspan above the water. He could stay in the air longer with less effort. His glitches ended not with the usual feet down splash into the sea, but with a long flat wake as he touched the surface with his feet tightly lined against his body. When he began sliding into feet up, landing on the beach, then pacing the length of his side in the sand. His parents were very much dismayed indeed. Why, John, why? His mother asked. Why is it so hard to be like the rest of the flock? Because mother know everything, and the question demanding, why can't you leave low flying to the pelicans, the albatross? Why don't you eat? Son, you are bone and feathers. I don't know mind being bone and feathers. Mom, I just want to know what I can do in the air. And what I can't, that's all. I just want to know. The fish in the water. Then Jonathan is flying. See here, Jonathan, said his father, not unkindly. Winter is not far away, boats will be few, and the surface first fish will be swimming deep. If you must study, then study food and how to get it. This flying business is all very well, but you can't eat a glitch, you know. Don't you forget that the reason you fly is to eat. Yes. The problem is Jonathan know the thing food with fly and fly with food, but Jonathan nodded obediently for the next few days. He tried to behave like the other girls. He really tried searching and fighting with the flock around the piers and fishing boats, diving on scraps of fish and bread, but he could not make it work. It's also pointless, he thought, deliberately dropping a hard won anchovy to a hungry old girl chasing him. I could we spend all this time learning to fly. There's so much to learn. I think Jonathan want to know who is he, and he want and he love ourselves. So love means sensibility. Sensibility means you are courageous. It's also pointless, he thought, deliberately dropping a hard-won anchovy to a hungry old girl chasing him. I could be spending all the time learning to fly. There's so much to learn. It was not long before Jonathan Gull was off by himself again, far out at sea. Hungry, happy, learning. The subject was speed, and in a week's practice, he learned more about speed than the fastest girl alive. From 1,000 feet, flapping his wings as hard as he could, he pushed over into a blazing steep dive toward the waves and learned why seagulls don't make blazing steep power dives. In just 6 seconds, he was moving 70 miles per hour, the speed at which one's wing goes unstable on the upstroke. Time after it happened, careful he was working at the very peak of his ability. He controlled at high speed. Control only the mind's game. You control your mind, you control yourself. You believe your mind, you believe yourself. And you believe yourself firstly, then you believe your mind. Climb to 1,000 feet. Full power straight ahead first, then push over, flapping to a vertical dive. Then every time his left wing stalled on a stroke, he'd roll violently left, saw his right wing recovering and flick like fire into a wild tumbling spin to the right. He could not be careful enough on that upstroke. 10 times he tried, and all 10 times as he passed through 70 miles per hour, he burst into a churning mass of feathers, out of control, crashing down into the water. The key, he thought at last, tripping wet, must be to hold the wings still at high speeds, to flap up to 50 and then hold the wings still. From 2,000 feet, he tried again, rolling into his dive, braked straight down, wings full out and stable from the moment he passed 50 miles per hour. It took tremendous strength, but it worked in 10 seconds. He had blood through 90 miles per hour. Jonathan had set a world speed record for seagulls. But victory was short-lived. The instant he began his pullout, the instant he changed the angle of his wings, he snapped into that same terrible, uncontrolled disaster, and at 90 miles per hour it hit him like dynamite. Jonathan Siegel exploded in midair and smashed down into a brick hard sea. When he came to, it was well after dark, and he floated in moonlight, a surface on the ocean.